Outer limit 20, 15 is fine.
So, how long I will get? 20 minutes?
You'll get 20 minutes. You'll get
Yeah,
25 minutes. The keynote
yeah.
speaker gets 25 minutes.
Yeah, okay, okay, no problem. So I'm having little throat pain because of rain and so cold this side.
Oh,
So
it's
no
raining
issue.
here. Okay.
Yeah, I know that Pondicherry also raining. Since my
Yes,
family lives there in Pondicherry.
I see.
So how are you, madam?
So you must be knowing Shreya, madam. She's on our board. You're muted, sir. You're muted. Ah,
Yeah, yeah. Shreya madam only asked me that okay whether I can deliver a lecture on something. She has
wow.
given a pull of the theme. Then I said okay, it's okay since madam asked. So, and I love to talk about this refugee and all. So because there is a connection with this refugee word because my grandpa parents and all actually they were the refugee
Mm, mm.
and I'm from Andaman itself.
You're
So
from Andaman. Okay. And
yes, I'm from
grandparents?
Andaman. They were in the first India, then Pakistan, and then Bangladesh gradually,
Oh,
and then they migrated initially. In 1940, 50s like that only my father migrated.
mm,
It was that in Pakistan and there was a
mm,
so much of turmoil. So both the
mm.
side east and west that time only, and then later on my grandfather, and then
Yeah,
finally
I
we
think you
landed
could
to
also share your personal connection because
yes,
your listeners will be mostly postgraduate students.
yes, yes.
That,
So you're from Chennai itself, madam?
yes, 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 yes. I'm from Chennai.
Okay, very good. I can
Okay,
see
Mr.
that this
Jyoti
is
Biswas will join. So we can start. Who's the compier for the
yes,
evening?
yeah, no
Myself,
problem.
I'm the
Yes,
computer
I
person.
exist. Yes, sir, we'll begin.
Shall I start now?
Yes.
A very pleasant evening to all. On behalf of the Intandem Research Club, I warmly welcome you to the Four Nightingale Symposium organized by the PG and Research Department of English, Queen Mary's College, Chennai. I am Syed Ibrahima, a student of Second M English Literature, and it's my privilege to be your compier for this evening. For the academic year 2024 to 2025, we have adopted the theme conflict, peace, reconciliation, and planetary well being, which seeks to engage with pertinent global issues from diverse perspectives. Today's symposium is centered around the topic refugee studies. We are honored to have with us a distinguished keynote speaker and esteemed paper presenters. Let me begin by extending a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Dr. Bibhuti Bhusan Biswas, Assistant Professor of International Relations at the Central University of Jharkhand. Welcome, sir. I also take this opportunity to welcome our paper presenters, Mr. Sabin Pandey, Assistant Professor at Medhavi Skills University, Sikkim, and Mr. Jyoti Biswas, Ph.D. Research Scholar, Department of English Studies, Central University of Jharkhand. And a special note of welcome to all the faculty members, research scholars, and students who have joined us today to enrich this session with your presence. The symposium will unfold with a keynote address followed by paper presentations. I now have the privilege of introducing our keynote speaker, Dr. Bibhuti Bhusan Biswas, sir. Dr. Biswas is a respected academic and researcher in the field of international relations. His insightful work on cultural dynamics and identity erosion, particularly concerning refugee settlements in Andaman and the Nicobar Islands, has been widely acclaimed. Today, he will be presenting on the topic Refugee Settlement in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Cultural Dynamic and Erosion. We are truly fortunate to have you with us, sir. I now request you to take over and share your valuable insights with us. The forum is yours, sir.
Thank you very much for your generous introductions. So, can I share my slide?
Yes, sir,
Yes,
please.
sir.
Yeah. So it is. So you can see it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So shall I start my talk?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the generous introductions. And first of all, I would like to thank the uh, Intendant Research Club, Queen's Mary's College, Chennai, and the coordinator, Syed Ibrahim, and Dr. Professor Shreya Bhattacharya for giving me this opportunity to share my actually the refugee settlement in Andaman Nicobar and my personal touch with the topic. So I would like to thanks all of you and the other faculty members of the department and participants, students and research scholars and other co-panelists Sabin Pandey and Mr. Jyoti. So I know Mr. Jyoti. He is also working on Namasudra community and visited Andaman also. So he will relate so much with me when I'm talking, and others also. I hope everybody will relate with me. Because the today topic is I'm going to talk about the refugee settlement in Andaman Nicobar Islands, cultural dynamics and identity erosions. So basically the slides will be little over written and all, but I'm not going to read anything, so I'm going to give a very everything in very nutshell uh, uh, about the cultural erosions, how it is happening there in Andaman Nicobar Islands, because these islands, as you can see in the slides, that we have around five geographically it is very isolated islands. And initially, when the Cholas and then other Japanese and then British, they were there in Andaman Nicobar. Basically, there were six different tribal populations were there, and still some of the populations are already extinct, and some are very much in danger. But whereas only Nicobaris, they have around 30,000 populations, but rest all like Ongi is around 100 Ongis are there. Jarwas is around 300, 350 like that only. So there are Sentinelis who actually mostly, they are terribly isolated. But this Andaman Nicobar Islands is though it is so far away from the mainland India, but it having its own significance in terms of different unity and diversity and cultural aspects also, as well as since I'm a student of international relations, it is having a very much strategic importance for India. But today I'm going to talk about how the cultural erosions are having is happening over there. So basically, populations, if you see that 2011 census and another census yet to take place, around 4 lakhs populations are there in Andaman Nicobar Islands. And these populations, that initially when British they came to, they were ruling this Andaman Nicobar. So basically, they started certain kind of penal settlements. Those who were the convict, those who were fighting for freedom movements, okay, they used to send them to Andaman Nicobar as a convict. And but there was no as such jail; it was a kind of open jails and all. And they started kind of penal settlement over there. And then that also only in the very small pocket that is now presently the capital, the Port Blair, and then now the name has been changed to Sri Bijapuram. So there the settlements were there, but these people actually from India, it was not from the one pocket of India. They were from Lahore, they were from all over India, whatever territory was ruled by, even including Myanmar, from Thailand, from Burmese, from Sri Lanka, and from West Bengal, Punjab, Tamil Nadu. So from everywhere, some sort of people, this British, they sent them there and then started a kind of penal settlement over there. Though this 572 islands is a big islands, but altogether, if you can calculate the small rocks and all, it is more than 1,000 islands are there. And then, but later on, when 1947, the episodes of India's independent. After that, what happened is in the divisions took place, and there were so much of people. They were shifting from Pakistan to India and India to Pakistan and all. And but for there in the East Pakistan, basically, those who were mostly Bengali people, and that also Namasudra community, at what Jyoti is going to talk about basically on Namasudra communities. So these people, they migrated in 1947 itself also to India, and then again during creation of Bangladesh also another episodes happened, and that time these people again they migrated to India. But when they migrated, and then it was a kind of burden for the governments of India, and then during Indira Gandhi's period, so all these people, those who migrated from East Pakistan basically, and then from Sri Lanka, and from domestically, those who displaced during this this type of conflict. What happened is the government of India during Indira Gandhi's period, they actually settled them there in Andaman Nicobar Islands. And these settlements actually, if you can understand from that, okay, this the diverse people, they settled in Andaman Nicobar Islands, and since this settlement, I would call is a kind of parachute settlement. Seems that entire islands was virgin, and there was no any other settlements, any except few tribal populations over there, and they were also very much isolated from each other. And even these tribal populations also, they are living in a different islands, and only the Jarwa is having a very big land access, but for Ongi is again they are in the Little Andaman, and the Nicobaris are in the Nicobar and part of Little Andaman. So their interactions were also very much, where it was a kind of very limited, that insignificant. We can say that insignificant interactions were having among these tribal groups. But when these people they settled there in Andaman Nicobar Islands, what happened is, okay, seems all these people from Kerala, from Tamil Nadu, from Sri Lanka, from Myanmar, from Burma, from Bangladesh, then from all other parts, from Bengal to Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So people they settled over there, but majority of the people there in Andaman at that time, the settlement was done basically the Bengali Namasudra community there in Andaman Nicobar Islands. And then the second majority is Tamil. Third, you will find Telugu, and then subsequently, Biharis, then Nepalis including, and then Burmese and Sri Lankans and so on. But the settlement pattern of these people is not that, okay, there was no as such demarcations for any community particularly. For example, if I take my own village, and basically I am from Little Andaman, which is again another big island in Andaman Nicobar Islands. And my parents also, they migrated. Not my parents, my grandparents, they migrated from Pakistan to India in 1947 after that episodes, and then subsequent in 1971, during creation of Bangladesh, entirely my entire family they migrated. But my born and brought up there in Andaman Nicobar Islands. So when these people the government, when they plan for settlement, what happened is, okay, they did not give any settlement, the caste wise, religious wise, or community wise. So they have given the plan in such a way that, okay, diversity, there was a plan of a kind of, there must be unity in diversity, and that should not be in odd only, but that should be reflected when they are settling the people there in Andaman Nicobar Islands, right from the north, Diglipur to the Campbell Way, Indra Point. You will find that, okay, the settlement's been done, and that settlement is mix of settlements. That actually my main point of discussions when this mixed settlement is done, and that also parachute settlement. There was no, that land was virgin and then settled all together, the different community, different culture, different people, all languages also different, culture also different, and religious also different. You can see that. And then after that, what happened is government sorry, government again recruited and settled tribal people from Jharkhand. That is, okay, from basically Jharkhand people also, they settled in Andaman Nicobar Islands, though they are tribe, as they consider tribe here in Jharkhand. But in Andaman Nicobar, what happened is when the settlements were taking place, they have not given any status like scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC, or any tribals, except those 6 tribal indigenous people. No other people is having any no status of any kind of caste, or even including even the religions also they have not considered while they were settling. So that actually the people, those who settled over there, it was a kind of challenge before them. And this tribal people from Jharkhand, again, they were, since the Jharkhand is having, it is also a dense forest, and there are certain similarities of climates there in Andaman, and the forest, and that forest ecosystem with the Jharkhand. That's why the government of India recruited people from Jharkhand, so that, because there was a challenge of malaria, there was a challenge of different type of disease and snakes and different other kind of insects that a normal person cannot deal with that. So finally the government of India identified the people from Jharkhand, of Jharkhand's tribals. So because since they were also living in forest, so they are also habituated with such type of things, and then government, they recruited them for different kind of works, that also government job. And subsequently they government also gave them the land also, because if you are taking somebody and if you are not giving basic that everybody associated with the land, and if you are having land, that means you have a feelings of local. So government gave land to them also. But when these people settled together, so there was a kind of problem in terms of their culture, because the cultures were clashing with each other, religions were clashing with each other. But the people of Andaman Nicobar Islands, though there were so much of diversities among their culture, religions, and other things, but they do not have any other options rather than cooperating with each other, because of the types of settlement. And since it is very much isolated from mainland India, there was no any other options before them. Easily they could not come back to mainland, because when governments were not allowing them to come back, because there was a plan, and plan was that, okay, that they will provide everything to these people so that they can settle, and they can make that place a beautiful place for living. And so that's why now 26, okay, you can see that, okay, indigenous tribes, that around 26 different tribes are present, that you can see in the slide. But 26 tribes is basically from mainland India, but indigenous tribes are basically there in the Andaman Nicobar is around 6, like Ongi, Jarwa, Sentinelese, then Great Andamanis, Nicobaris. But the other tribes are from basically India, but they didn't get any kind of tribal status there in Andaman Nicobar Islands. And then the compositions, okay, you can see the religions, basically Hindu and Christian, Muslims, and then Sikh. and there is an island called Kachal, which is actually the huge Sikh settlements are there in that island. So altogether, this island is having okay the diverse settlement, which is actually the problem of the people, because when you are settling, when you are celebrating any kind of or you are trying to enhance your cultural legacy, because every community is having their own cultural legacy, like Malayalis, okay, they have their own Telugu, their Tamil and Bengali, and apart from all these, the tribal people of indigenous people of this Andaman Nicobar, they have altogether their cultural practices are different. Their languages are different. Though there are two different type of people are there among these tribals. One is Mongolites, another is Nigrotites. But they don't. Their language is also not similar. Though they look alike, but the language is very different, and that language is no, not that language you won't find any trace anywhere in the world. That is another uniqueness. And since this settlement took place, it is basically the large number of people now living in urban city, like in Port Blair, and then semi-urban cities, and that is the main one place where the large number of people are living. So there you can see the crisscross of this culture, religions, language, and all. So when a person is going, even presently, when a person is shifting or going for any kind of business or anything there in Andaman Nicobar, it is very much necessary to learn Bengali and Hindi. Otherwise, you cannot sustain over there. But for the people, those who settled over there was a certain problem because of. So I'm not going through this slides. You can, if anybody want, they can go through. So those who settled over there during settled for their childrens, and for those people, those who migrated from mainland India, that they were the first generations, and then after that, okay, I'm the second generations over there, like that. So but first generations also, they were trying to maintain their own culture and other festivals, and then language as well. But what happened is, the second generations, they have their own problem to maintain the culture, language, and other kind of practices, whatever different communities are doing, because the demography is in as such that they are mix of. And then any celebration is happening, for example, since Bengali settlement is very high, that migrate people. So Bengali people, they try to actually dominate through their culture, through their other religious practices and all, and others also, they join with such type of cultures and celebrations and all, because you do not have any other way out, because your other community peoples are very tiny. So settlements, for example, my village name is Vivekanandapur. Around 200 families are living over there. But among these 200 people, you have Christian, you have Muslim, you have Hindus, you have Punjabis, you have many other, and even in the Little Andaman, you have Nicobaris and Ongis also. Now here, if since that land was virgin and there was no any other dominance of any other cultures or any other language over there, now since the majority of Bengalis populations over there, so this populations is trying to, because all short of business and other kind of day-to-day activities actually taken over by these people, and the other peoples also is to for their own survivals, they are learning this Bengali or Hindi, though maybe that person is from Kerala, from Tamil Nadu, or from Myanmar, or from Burmese, or any other part of India, and from Maharashtra and all. but everybody is learning this language and this culture also. But the first generation people, they are actually having certain sort of intact with the culture and their languages. But the second generation, because since these people, they are migrated from very different places, and they landed in a place where they do not have a kind of similar kind of cultures, whereas there is a different type of practices and cultures and languages are put together in the same basket. So now everybody, they want their cultures and other languages should flourish and should disseminate to their younger generation, or next generations. But what is happening in basically in Andaman, the uh, schooling, basically schoolings are in different languages, but the basically dominant language is English. And gradually all other people, they are not getting enormous chance to study their own languages there in school. But whatever they are learning, it is a, for example, they only, they can speak very, second generations now, like me, second generations, they have certain knowledge of on their own mother tongue, and they can read and write. But what happened is, because of the market and the demand of the market, everybody is going towards the English educations, and then they are forgetting their mother tongue. Only they can communicate, but writing, reading is now a challenge before these small, these generations. So that also, I am also facing the same kind of things. Now I cannot read properly Bengali. I can read English, and since English is the market, and that will provide you livelihood, and your other culture, since it is crisscrossing cultures with each other, no proper culture like second generation is following. So there are certain positive aspects of this, and there are certain negative aspects of this. You can see the two images. So one side is your indigenous Ongi and Jarwa. The Ongi and Jarwa, they look like the same. And on the other side is that you can see the Tamil people, these who are celebrating Pongal over there. So this, when celebrating such type of Pongals and all, so again, these people, those who are the Tamilians, they are also facing the same type of problems. Malayalis also facing the same type of problems. They are not able to, so it is this celebrations of Pongal, celebrations of Yugadi, celebrations of Durga Puja, celebrations of Eid is becoming more hybrid kind of things. Why? Because that actually the problem of carrying or disseminating the proper cultures and language to their to the younger generations. And since employments is one of the biggest issue for us, for everybody, so they're moving towards the market language rather than their own mother tongue. So but in mainland, as compared to mainland is all the states are formed based on the language. So the majority and the entire population, they are speaking the same language, same culture, and but religious wise certain differences are there. But there in Andaman Nicobar, the social integrations is very much challenging, because everybody is trying to dominate through their own culture, language and all. And but this multiculturalism is another side, as I told, that there are certain positive aspect and negative aspects also. Positive aspect is that, okay, this is a kind of, we can say that, okay, this is a islands of we can call is the mini India. You can find all sort of people from different parts of India, and there is a kind of hybrid kind of cultures and language even. For example, uh, the people, those who are in Andaman, if even they are speaking Hindi, they will not speak a kind of pure Hindi. Rather, they will speak a kind of Mumbai kind of Hindi, or a kind of second version of Hindi. When they are speaking Bengali, they are speaking the second kind of Bengali, not like okay, West Bengal people, they are talking their own uh, way of talking. They are having their own way of talking different languages. And even now, the Tamilians also facing the same problem, that their younger generations now they are speaking seems Hindi and English, and they are forgetting writing and reading their own mother tongue. So that's it. This social fabric is you can say that okay, there is a very much harmony, but on the other hand, the cultural aspects and other language aspects is slowly declining. And education system seems it is basically certain pockets you can study regional languages, or like Tamil, Telugu, Malayali, Hindi, but most of the places is Hindi and English. So that actually creating another problem. The first generations of older people, they are well off of their language and all, but the next generations, because of employment, their own mother tongue is has taken the backbench because of employment opportunity. And then education system in Andaman Nicobar, it is everything now transforming from local language to English educations, which is actually slowly the cultural and the language, these erosions are taking place in language and in culture also. So uh, basically, what exactly I want to say is that okay, since this refugee people, these people, different type of people, they migrated to Andaman Nicobar Islands, and that actually mix up with each other, which actually created a kind of garden with different type of flowers and all. But the challenges actually faced the by the younger generations, and coming generations will also face the similar problem. And then a kind of hybrid kind of culture and hybrid kind of language, okay, everybody will speak, and they will lose actually in due course of time, they will lose their own language, they will lose their own culture. So that will actually will give a different identity of these people, and they will disroot from their own ancestors and all. So such type of things actually, when a person is losing his own culture or language, that actually a kind of you're derooting yourself from your own kind of cultures and language, that which has become more challenging for a person, and for a young guy to manage with the other people in those who are in mainland. So when a person, when a student is coming to mainland India for studying and other thing, again they are facing a lot of problem because of their social fabric. So where here, when they are shifting to any state, or going to any state for any kind of study, like Tamil Nadu, or to Bangalore, or any Delhi and other parts. So the social fabric and social composite of that society is very, very different. There is no any kind of hierarchy and loyalty over there in Andaman Nicobar. So but when you are coming to mainland India, it is basically first of all you will be identified with your caste, your religions. So that also same thing, also I also faced there when I went to Pondicherry for first time. They asked me for a caste certificate, but I never heard about it, that what caste is. And in my classroom in graduations, I had 80 friends. No, we were 80 students in graduations, but we never know that who is Tamilian, who is this because of this social fabric. And everybody were comfortable in speaking in Hindi and partly English, but nobody were speaking their own mother tongue there in the classroom. That actually, when these people, they're coming to Tamil Nadu, even Tamilians are going to Tamil Nadu also facing problem, because there is again, they have their own tradition, cultures, and all. But in Andaman, if you are not exposed to your to different culture or the others outside, or a kind of in a state, so that time you are facing a lot of problem, and gradually you will feel like that you are isolated from this mainland India, which is actually a big problem. But on the other hand, okay, I take this thing is a very positive, positive aspects. I can draw from here that multiculturalism, which actually gives a lot of to create a lot of harmony, and every individuals, every individual is learning about each other's cultures and all, and there is no feelings of dominations of new generations. They do not have any kind of dominating each other through their cultures and language. But in the long run, what happened is, okay, this all entire populations, they are actually losing their own mother tongue, own language, and own culture, which is actually it will be a kind of very much this uh, Andaman Nicobar populations, the different populations and different type of language and all, it will be under in danger. We can say that it will be in danger in future, because in another maybe the next generations, so nobody will be speaking their mother tongues because of that. Only they can only speak, and the cultures and other thing and the festivals, okay, whatever the celebrations are taking place, seems the different people are involved in celebrations of different festivals. It's actually again become more hybrids, which is actually that such type of practices may not be acceptable in mainland India. That will actually gradually it will create a kind of identity loss for Andaman Nicobar Islands, because when they will come to mainland India, even they will be not able to associate with those people, those actually speaking maybe for Bengali, with the West Bengal Tamilians, with Tamil Nadu, Telugu with Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, or in even including in Bihar. So the celebrations of Chhat in Bihar, in Andaman, is again very different. And the tribal people from Jharkhand, gradually they seems they did not get any tribal tag. They are losing their entire identity, whatever they actually get here in Jharkhand or any other part of India. So that is a very much this is a matter of concern, that the people, those who are that culture, traditions, language, and other things should be preserved. And what is happening, you see, after the settlement, I will finish within 2-3 minutes. I think I'm taking much time. So actually, what happened is, okay, this local indigenous people, like Nicobaris, the biggest challenge before this Nicobaris is now is that since they are highly now they are with the mainstream economy and mainstream settlement and mainstream, this Nicobaris only, the 30,000 populations there with the mainstream people. Gradually, what is happening, the marriages are taking place with these tribals and non-tribals, and then among the Muslims and Hindus, and then Bengali and Tamils and all. So there is a huge mix-up of people, which is a good thing. But gradually, the next generation is in dilemma. What language he or she should speak? For example, if I give my own example, my wife is Tamilian, so she lives there in Pondicherry, and I'm a Bengali. And my daughter now, she's confused with the language. When she's speaking with me, she's speaking Bengali and English and Hindi mix of. She has no idea about that what exactly she is speaking, either pure Bengali or pure Hindi. But English, since English is different there in Pondicherry, everybody speaks English, but English is not the problem. But Hindi and Bengali, she cannot segregate much and mixing up and talking with me. But now she is well off because her mother tongue is Tamil, so she is speaking well Tamil. So gradually, okay, she is losing a kind of since we are most of the time what we do is that, okay, this seems that it is a patriarchal society, basically that associated with the language, culture, and other things they take over. They actually follow the children, they follow whatever their father, but I don't believe in that. But now for my daughter, and this is not the case of only me. So my neighbor is, okay, married to a Nepali, and another one is Tamil, another is Malayali. So it is a very very common thing there in Andaman. So gradually what happened is, okay, it's gradually everybody's cultures and languages are erosions are taking place, and then a hybrid kind of things is coming up, which is what I feel is it is a good one. It is a having positive aspect in terms of like how we see there in mainland India, that people are fighting with each other because of this type of this sort of things, that a Hindu, a Muslim or Hindu or any other community, they cannot, marriage, even caste wise also the marriages are not happening and it not taking place, and that becoming more political issues. But in Andaman it is uh, very normal thing for the such type of marriage. But gradually what is happening, this then identity of a person associated with their language, cultures and other traditions, which is subsequently, it is taking the backbench, and a hybrid kind of language or other kind of cultures is emerging over there. I don't know how the other generation, the younger generations will manage with that, by losing their own identity of their cultures and their language and all. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I once again I would like to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity. So now over to you. Thank you very much. And he will be presenting it. Okay, maybe he will be referring certain things about the Andaman Nicobar Islands. So that time, you will again, you will find a lot of connections with these, because his thesis was on particularly on that. So thank you very much, madam, and everybody, and especially the thanks to Professor Shira Bhattacharya for giving me this opportunity, and the Queen's Mary College Intendant Research Club. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening address. Moving on, it's now time for our paper presenters. Our first paper presenter for the evening is Mr. Sabin Pandey, Assistant Professor at Medhavi Skills University, Sikkim. Mr. Pandey's paper titled Refugee Camps as Liminal Spaces, a study of transition and transformation in a Pardesi in Paradise. Now, I invite Mr. Pandey to present his paper.
Uh, Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to Queen's Mary's College and Intendam Research Club. It is my pleasure to be here and present this paper in front of the respected academicians and audiences here. So I'll be sharing my screen. Please interrupt me if I am not audible or if my screen is not visible. I hope my screen is visible. So my topic for today's presentation is refugee camps as liminal spaces, or study of transition and transformation in a Pardesi in a paradise. So basically, A Pardesi in a Paradise is a autobiographical novel written by Dr. Govinda Rizal, late Dr. Govinda Rizal, who was a Bhutanese refugee, and the meaning of the title of his semi-autobiographical novel is Pardesi in a Paradise. For Pardesi, there is no appropriate translation in English. It basically, we have Swadesh and we have Videsh, which means a foreign land or the land belonging to my motherland or my nation, that is Swadesh, and we have Videsh. But Pardesh in Nepali, I'm not sure about Hindi, but in Nepali culture, Pardesh is something where people are not accepted, people do not feel accepted, or they do not feel they belong to. They feel that they are just there just for a brief period of time. So referring to paradise, he is referring to, the author writer is referring to the last Sangrila, or the land of happiness, which is known by the country Bhutan. The objective of this paper here is not to give a judgment as to whether the Bhutanese government and the people were right or wrong, or who is the victim, not to identify the victim, or not to give that judgment, but to see how refugee camps has served as a liminal spaces, that is the space of transition and transformation for these people, especially in the context of a Pardesi in a paradise. So talking about the background, the Lotsampa people, also known as the, which translates to the southern settlers in the Drukpa language, in the Bhutanese language, is they are the people who went to Bhutan, who actually migrated to Bhutan. They were actually, the migration was encouraged, like in other parts of the world where British, they actually encouraged migration because for their own gains and for their own reasons. The people from Nepal who settled in the southern part of Bhutan were also encouraged, the migration was encouraged in the late 18, or we can say the migration started from 1620 itself, but the major migration started from 1890 onwards. So they actually needed people to settle in the southern part of Bhutan for political and economic reasons. They saw the settlement from the security point of view, because since Bhutan has very close proximity with China, they felt, the British people felt that settling the Nepalese people out there in Bhutan in the southern part would make it easier for them to tackle with China, for that matter. And also economically it would be beneficial, because the Nepali people, as we all know, they are very good in cultivating farms and cultivating and, promoting agriculture, taking up agricultural cultivation, especially in the hilly regions. So this was one specific reason why they were encouraged to be there in the southern part of the Bhutan. And that is why they have this, they are categorized as the Lotsampa people, again meaning the southern settlers. So obviously the Lotsampas, they are ethnic Nepali speaking group who have faced a very tumultuous history marked by political and cultural tensions in their ancestral homeland of Bhutan. And in the late 20th century, the Bhutanese government implemented policies that aimed at promoting a single Bhutanese identity. So they had something called One Nation, One People, where the entire citizens of Bhutan, the diverse citizens of Bhutan, they had to speak a single language and they had to wear a single dress. So talking from the ethnic point of view, the cultural point of view, the Nepali people had their own language, they had their own culture, their own dress. Now, and they were very much citizens of Bhutan. But all of a sudden, for many reasons, again, I will not deep dive into the reasons, but it was a mix of political reasons and also out of fear. But the objective of this paper is not to deep dive into this reason, but to see how the life that they had in the refugee camp. So they were in a way marginalized and in their own land, of course, in Bhutan itself. And this marginalization was the actual objective of this was to was to it was to reduce their population. It was a very planned, and it was executed in such a way that the people were forced to flee their own own homeland, and that is Bhutan. So their story is actually a very important example of the complexities of ethnic and cultural identity in the context of nation state. So though Bhutan does not share its border with Nepal, though it does not share a direct border with Nepal, they were forced to flee their homeland and seek refuge in neighboring Nepal. The Indian government then, for some political reasons, again, they had to they did not let these people to seek refuge in India. Instead, they put them in trucks and then drop them off in the border of Nepal. So in this paper, the Lotsampa community will see how the Lotsampa community, the Lotsampa refugees, they found themselves in a liminal space between a lost home and an uncertain future, and how this liminal space served as a breeding ground for their complexities of identity, transition, and transformation that this Lotsampa community endured. So let us understand the liminality for Lotsampa refugees. I have just categorized into three different stages: the transition, transformation, and that is in the refugee camp. So they actually went to the refugee camp started to be begin from late early 2000 and or late 1990s. So when these people from the different parts of southern Bhutan and even few, of course, were settled in northern Bhutan as well, many were holding crucial and prominent positions in government bureaucracy, or some were even the advisors to the king. And all these people, when they were expelled from Bhutan, they went, they had no option but to go to the refugee camp and be settled there. Now, when we talk about, when we hear this term refugee camp, of course, the very first image that we get in our mind is life so complex, people dying of hunger, people not having enough medical treatment, no medical facilities, people not having proper homes. And of course that is not wrong, that is true in almost all the refugee crisis, all the cases of refugees. But there is also another aspect to this, and this aspect is that refugee camp also serve as a space where the individuals, they they look for something better. Like, it is of course a state of transition, a state of being in between, that is they neither belonging here nor there. They do not know whether they will be taken back, whether or not they will be allowed back to Bhutan, or whether they will have to figure something out, whether they will, or whether the Nepali government, the Nepal government will accept them as citizens, whether they will be called back to Bhutan, or whether there is something else for them, whether they will be given refuge in some other parts of the world. So they are in this state, and this state, this period, see, this signifies a period of uncertainty and change, where individuals are suspended between their past and their future. They do not at all know what tomorrow holds for them. They do not know whether they will be alive or not. And it is, though it is a period of transition and also transformation. And this is what is the focus of this paper: the process of becoming something new, which is often marked by challenges and growth. So it involves shedding old identities, embracing new ways of being, and understanding the world. When I was reading this uh, book, what I found, one thing that was something new to me is quite, I mean, I was quite surprised. Even refugee is an identity. I did not know that. In a way that not everyone is given that status. Refugee is a status. It is a status. So when not all people are given the refugee status, there the writer himself, he was deprived of refugee status for 2 to 3 months because of different reasons. So there were many challenges. There was so many challenges that they had to cripple with and they had to face. So talking about this book now, coming to this book, Pardesi in Paradise. It is a personal narrative. So it is Dr. Rizal's autobiographical account, which provides a deeply personal lens into the Lotsampa experience, offering insights into their displacement, their struggles, and their enduring hope. Now, there is liminality in the narrative in a way that this novel explores the complex emotions, challenges, and anxieties associated with living in a refugee camp, showcasing the liminality of this space and its impact on the protagonist's identity formation. Like I talked before, the camp as a place of transformation. How this camp actually transformed so many refugees. Now there were around 1,34,000 refugees as per UNHCR report in 2002. Now there are women and children and teenagers and grown-up men, old. Now the children especially, they will have to grow up in the refugee camp. They will have to spend their childhood in the refugee camp. They do not, the those children who were driven out of Bhutan, they did not have certificates. They did there was no refugee, there was no school in refugee camp. But still, despite this uncertainty and change, we find in this book how people, they share the same pain, and this sharing of the same pain binds them together. As we move ahead in this presentation, I'll be talking more about the instances and the experiences, actually the personal journey that the writer has said in this book. So talking about campsite, of course, we see the camps as a site of confinement, physical boundaries. Now, though they shared the same culture, though these Lotsampa people, who are the Nepali ethnic people speaking Nepali language, sharing the same culture as the people of that nation, that is Nepal, where they had their refugee camp, they had their physical boundaries. They were seen very suspiciously if they went beyond the refugee camp. They were not allowed to do jobs, even if they were very competent in teaching. Let's say they were not allowed to teach in private schools or any take up any of the jobs, because it was seen as a threat for the citizens of that region. So there was a physical boundary, and of course time is one of the liminal construct, because life in the camps, it felt like a suspended state with, as I said before, with uncertainty about the future and the constant struggle to adapt to new way of life. And this uncertainty created a sense of liminality and timelessness, and of course most importantly, psychological confinement and that trauma of displacement, the loss of home, and the uncertainty of future. It created a sense of psychological confinement and emotional distress, impacting the well-being of the refugees. Now, how did this camp serve as a space of renewal? This is the part where I would like to focus more upon. So, as I was talking about before, the people from different parts of Bhutan, especially majority of the people were from the southern part, of course, from different districts and region, even from the southern part, and few from the northern part as well. Now, when they came to and settled in a refugee camp, now these camps, it fostered a sense of community among the Lotsampa refugees, as they had no choice but to support each other and share their experience. Now they had to, because they shared the same pain, and this shared pain played a major role in binding them together, and together they rebuilt their lives in the camps. They It is evident in this book that the educated people there, they voluntarily opened schools for the children. We have Dr. Rai, who was the first surgeon of Bhutan, and who was the personal uh, physician to the royal government of Bhutan, who was also thrown out of, I mean, expelled from the from Bhutan. He served. He offered his service free of cost, looked after all the sick and the old and the children throughout his life in the refugee camp. So there was a strong sense of community building. Like-minded people, they came together. They they Many organizations were born out of this refugee camp. Educated and like-minded people, they came together. They approached United Nations. They approached many different refugee agencies, NGOs. They sought help. They pressurized both Nepal as well as the Bhutan government to come up with the solutions, and there were many talks that was held. So there was this strong sense of community building in among those Lotsampa refugees in the camp. Now, how did this give them a sense of renewal and a sense of togetherness, sense of belongingness? Is that it made them feel that, okay, I am not the only one. There are so many people, and we collectively can fight this together. We collectively can. Now, if I have to talk about the experience that the writer has said in the novel, in the book, we find that if there was a meal sufficient for one family, and if the three other families did not have food to feed their children and the old, then that meal would be shared amongst these four families. So this was the sense of, togetherness, the sense of community collaboration and community building in the refugee camp. And there was also this cultural resilience, because the this was one of the main reason why they were expelled from Bhutan. They were not directly expelled. Of course, there was this technical part. They were deprived of their citizenship for many reasons. The Citizenship Act of, 1898, if I'm not wrong, 1898, yes. So it deprived them, many of the Bhutanese, of their citizenship, in a way that what it said was that if you do not have the land revenue receipt for 1968, for the year 1968, then you are not a citizen. Now it could not be 1969 or 1900, or a year before that. It exactly had to be of that specific year. And as we know, the people were uneducated and so many other factors involved. Many people could not produce that, and even those who produced that were in other ways expelled, forced to leave their homeland. So the and the reason being, they belonged from a different culture, that and they looked different. That was the only reason, actually. So what they had to do, they had to preserve their cultural identity. Of course they were in the same land where they shared the same cultural identity in Nepal, when they were in refugee camps in Nepal. But even in the camp, they could not mourn their expulsion forever. So they had to preserve their cultural identity. They had to teach their children their culture. So they had to pass their culture down onto the generation. So we find in this book how they even celebrate cultural festivals like Dasai and uh, Tihar. Tihar again is a bit different from how we celebrate Diwali in the mainland India. It has the Nepali ethnic people. They have a different way of celebrating and observing this festival, and they did this even in the refugee camp. Like they go on to each other's house playing Devsi Vailo, which is a type of carol. If I have to roughly translate it into English, but they have their own way. So they did that in refugee camp. It was actually the refugee camp itself was a kind of economic zone where someone was producing something, selling something, the other people buying that. So just like how economy functions, even the refugee camp, it served like it served as that space for where people were interdependent. And this I found as one of the major aspect of how we can look at refugee camps differently. It served as people were interdependent. If I can provide some kind of service, then I could do it in the refugee camp. Could if someone could provide their labor, physical labor, then they would be paid for that. So it worked like a kind of economy. And most importantly, when the people, they collaborated, they shared the same pain and fought for their future, it kind of brought them hope, obviously. And these camps also served as a space for hope and possibility, where the Lutsampa community looked forward to brighter future and worked towards achieving a better life for themselves and for their children. And now, their identity in exile. The exile here is the refugee camp where they do not know what happens next. They do not know where they will be taken next. What will happen? What next will happen in their life? So they did not have home, but they had to create their home. And now the home here is not the house, that the structure, the physical place that we basically understand. It is the sense of belongingness, our comfort zone. When we say I feel like I am at home, we mean that we are very comfortable, we feel safe in that space. So of course, time, it was a very challenging and difficult time for those refugees, but they had a very deep sense of attachment. Even in those tents, even those tents served as a home for them. And their identity, they had to reconstruct their identity, because the life in the camps, it became a space for reconstructing their identity, where these people, they grappled with their past, present and future, seeking to establish a sense of belonging in a new context. Now what we need to understand here is their forefathers, they migrated to Bhutan from Nepal. They and the current generation, who are the refugees here we are talking about, they are also Nepali people, but they do not identify at all as a citizen of Nepal. They are ethnically connected to Nepal, culturally connected to I won't say Nepal, the Nepali culture and the Nepali tradition. But they, all of them, almost all of them, they called themselves Bhutanese. They were proud citizens of Bhutan who revered their king and kept him in the highest position of all. But when the same people, they are now in Nepal, though the nation speaks Nepali, though the nation celebrates the same festival as them, they did not belong to that land. It was not their land, and therefore they were seen in a very inferior way by the citizens of Nepal. So they had to reconstruct their identity. Of course, we find some instances where people flee the refugee camp and work in disguise as Nepali citizens in some of the schools with even the writer here, Dr. Rizal, late Dr. Rizal, he goes to some school in Kathmandu and he teaches there. But he was always seen with this suspicion and he was treated in a very different way, like a Pardesi, someone who did not belong to that place, someone who was seen as a threat. So they had to construct their own different identity in the refugee camp, and most importantly they had to negotiate the belonging. As I said, though they said the same culture, same cultural heritage in that place, they were not accepted by the Nepalese government nor by the Nepalese citizen. So they had to construct, they had to negotiate this belonging. Where do I belong to? So this question was there with them throughout in exile. So challenging conventional refugee camps now serving spaces of transformation. Now this study, it challenges conventional notions of refugee camps as temporary shelters and instead presents them as dynamic spaces of transition and transformation, because now these people are settled in different third nation. The some are there in Canada, some are there in New Zealand, some in Australia, and few more nations who accepted these refugees into their nation. So what we find is that the people who are now settled, they still come back to these refugee camps, to these tents, because they are so much attached to these places. And we tend to see this as temporary shelters, but they see they have seen this as dynamic spaces of transition and transformation, where they faced the challenge and which made them strong to go to that third nation and cripple. Of course they are crippling with different identity there, but this made them strong, this made them see things differently, it fostered connections, and they got to know many things, it made them strong. So challenging conventional notions of temporary shelters is one of the main objective of this paper. And reclaiming agency, by highlighting the Lhotshampa community's resilience and adaptability, this paper emphasizes the agency and strength of refugees in shaping their own destinies. Now, even in the refugee camp, when they stayed there for 6 to 10 years, not everyone settled there. Some, including Dr. Rizal, the writer himself, he applied for many scholarships. He adopted, he fought, and then some people, some refugees, they made they became politicians and took that as their career. Now, from this refugee crisis and from this camp itself. So in a way they saved their own destinies as well. Some people are still there in refugee camp who do not want to go anywhere, who want to live and die there. They do not want to go to the developed nation. They do not want to go to Australia. They do not want to go to Canada or New Zealand for that matter. They just want to live and die there. Some people are still there in the camp who want to go to Bhutan. They do not want any kind of facility, any developed. They do not want the luxury that a developed nation offer, but they are still longing for their home because it is their land and they want to die in their land at least. So few people are still there in this land. So the point here is that people, they saved their own destinies. They, the refugees, they saved their own destinies. And refugee camps are beyond the temporary. It is never a temporary shelter. It is never a temporary shelter, but It creates a lasting impact on the refugee experience on individuals and communities, showcasing the transformative power of these liminal spaces. Now, when these people are settled in different parts, what did how they are living their life, are their culture still intact, are they still celebrating those festivals they celebrated in the refugee camps? When I wanted to find answers to this question, and when I connected with the people out there, I was very happy and overjoyed to see that the connections that they fostered in these refugee camps are still intact. In almost all the countries, they have association of Bhutanese refugees. They don't call themselves refugees anymore. They call themselves Bhutanese. So association of Bhutanese people. uh, they have it in different parts, and they have preserved their literature, their culture, their language in such a beautiful way. So they have this council called Literature Council of Bhutan. So they publish all the works, they keep writing poetry, refugee poetry, of course, with the themes of identity and belongingness and the loss and home, trauma, and all this. So they are still preserving that, and they are also passing it down to their next generation. Now, whether or not they will take it and how long will they be able to do it is a question, and only time will tell that. But until now, they have been successfully been able to preserve their cultural their homeland, that is in Bhutan, of speaking Nepali and of wearing their traditional dress, of following their culture. They are now doing those in their host land, in their new home, in their new host nation. So through this, to conclude, through this close reading of Pardesi in Paradise, this presentation sheds light on the Lhotshampa community's journey of resilience and transformation. This study, this paper positions refugee camps as liminal spaces that fosters both confinement and also renewal, challenging conventional notions of identity, culture, and home. It also emphasizes the agency and strength of refugees in shaping their own destinies. By understanding the complexities of refugee experience, we can develop more effective strategies for supporting and empowering displaced population, advocating for their rights, and contributing to more inclusive and equitable world. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. I would be happy to take any questions, if any.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us such a thought-provoking presentation. Next, we have Mr. Jyoti Biswas, sir, Ph.D. research scholar from the Department of English Studies, Central University of Jharkhand. Mr. Biswas, sir, will be presenting his paper titled "The Namasudra Diaspora Outside West Bengal: An Ethnographic Study of the Matua Culture in Malkangiri District in Odisha." I now request Mr. Biswas to present his paper.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the In Tandem Research Club for providing me an opportunity to present my research in this academic platform. Then I would like to thank specially my research supervisor, Professor Shreya Bhattacharjee, for guiding me throughout my research. I would like to thank Bibhuti Bhusan sir for guiding me in my research, and in his previous talk he talks about the new identity formation, the hybrid identity formation in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, especially in a very nutshell. And I especially thank the presenter, Mr. Sabin Pandey, for the wonderful talk on the Rotsampa community. I would like to share the screen with you. Is it visible, madam? Kindly inform me.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Is my slides visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So the title of my presentation is The Namasudra Diaspora Outside West Bengal, an ethnographic study of the Matua culture in the Malkangiri district in Odisha. Well, uh, I have visited the particular district Malkangiri 2 times in 2024. My first visit was done in the month of January, and I spent almost 3 weeks over there. And the second visit is in the month of March, and I spent almost 3 weeks over there. And based on my fieldwork in the Malkangiri district, especially among the Bengali population over there, and my interviews and at the same time photographic, videographic recordings, that I have come across the idea of what I would like to put here is as Namasudra diaspora. And I found in my fieldwork that although the caste-based identity is very much intact over there, because the government of Odisha rather acknowledged Namasudras with the scheduled caste status. That means like the Namasudras in West Bengal, the Namasudras in Odisha have a scheduled caste certificate. And this authorization from the government actually consolidated their caste-based identity, the way we see it in West Bengal, right? But in my presentation, I would like to show you that a big chunk of the Namasudra population follow what we call Matua culture. And in my presentation, I'll be showing you how this group of people who have been rehabilitated in erstwhile Dandukaranya, later on the particular place we call Koraput, it later on the Malkangiri district has been bifurcated. And this authorization from the government is now following the Motua culture. Now, in my presentation, I'll be showing you some culture that they borrowed from the formerly East Bengal. Locations, especially the Gopalganj district in Bangladesh, and some Indian states like West Bengal and Odisha, and especially Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And I could say that I got the help from Bibhuti sir for my trip to Andaman, and I went to Diglipur and I explored the Motua culture over there as well. So based on these two sources, the idea of Namasudra diaspora came to my mind. Now, in this regard, I would like to refer to a very special short story. The Bangla title of the short story is Onno Yehudi, and its English translation, The Other Jew. This is a short story written by Kopil Krishna Thakur. He is a noted Namasudra writer and activist based in West Bengal. In this story, short story, The Other Jew, or Onno Yehudi, Kopil Krishna Thakur actually equates the Namasudras as a Bengali counterpart to the Jews. Now, we know very well how from the time of the prophet Moses, the Jew community have always been targeted. and how they got dispersed. And of course, we read the little bit history of Holocaust, and of course, in the wake of the battle between Israel and Gaza and the Palestinians, the idea of anti-Semitism also became quite relevant. So we know that as a community, Jews are the diaspora community, and in his particular book, Irving Jetlin's The Jews, the Making of a Diaspora People, is also very important in conceptualizing how a group of people can be called a diaspora people or can become diaspora people. So in my research fieldwork, I also chanced upon many other, many questions. Whenever I went to Namasudra village to do my fieldwork and especially explored the cultural performances that they perform over there, and I interviewed them, and in our discussions, they asked me many questions because they considered me as a person from the academic background. And so being an educated person, they wanted to ask me some questions. Rather, they want me to answer some of the questions that they have been constantly asking to outsiders or to others. And what are the questions? And these questions are very important to conceptualize what I mean by Namasudra diaspora. So the first is, the first question that I got from many senior members of this community, both in Bangladesh and in some parts in West Bengal and Andaman and of course Odisha, that how and where, why and how did it happen that the districts where the Namasudra population was more than 70%, such as Faridpur, Jessore, Khulna, Barisal in former Eastern Bengal, were kicked out of the newly carved map of West Bengal? How did it happen? Because we know that very well. If you see the map of West Bengal, then the Murshidabad and Malda were the two Muslim-dominated districts, but they have been kept with West Bengal. Whereas Faridpur, Jessore, Khulna, Barisal, given the fact that there are many major Muslim population, but Namasudra population was quite great, but they have been kept outside West Bengal. So this is the first question. And this bifurcation of the land and exclusion of their homeland from the West Bengal, according to many Namasudra veterans, is the prime reason of how their refugee identity, their displaced identity is still being continued. And the people who are quite well aware of the NRC and other issues in Assam, they know very well how it is being again invoked, the fear, right? So the second is many scholars did this work. I acknowledge the historical research of Shekhar Bandyopadhyay and Anusua Basuroy Chaudhary, and they actually did a remarkable work in 2022. The Dalit refugees and the stories. Actually, they did extensive field work in different refugee camps in West Bengal. So, for example, Cooper's camp in Ranaghat, Nodia, and it is based on their interaction with the people living in the refugee camps that they came to know about the stories of the Dalit refugees and especially the Namasudra refugees. But again and again, their hypothetical statement, or rather their kind of a conclusion is because of the poor economic, because of the economic backwardness of the Namasudras, that the Dalit refugees like Namasudra Rajbanshi Ponros, have been suffering the most. It is because of the economic backwardness that they suffered the most, and it is because of the economic backwardness that they could not respond to the call of migrating the border right after 1947, the way this upper caste actually responded. And Rup Kumar Borman also did the similar kind of work on the Namasudra, on the scheduled caste refugees in West Bengal. So this is one question. And the question is, why were only the Dalit refugees rehabilitated outside West Bengal, such as Andaman Island and Dandakanda Forest? If economic backwardness is the only reason, or one of the prime reasons why this group of people could not respond to the call of migrating to West Bengal, then the question is, what are the other reasons that Dalit refugees were only Dalit refugees were rehabilitated in Andaman and Dandakarana, right? And the third question that I faced is, was it done only for the Dalit refugees being poor? And the most important question here is, was the caste-based hierarchical identity another major factor that the scheduled caste Bengali refugees were driven away from the promised land of West Bengal? So these are the 4 questions that actually I got while doing my fieldwork from the in the Namasudra populated areas. Okay. Now, in this regard, I would like to cite 2 important observations from 2 important autobiographies written by 2 very important Namasudra writers. You can call them Dalit writers, but I would like to stick to the idea Namasudra writers. One is by Monranjan Bapari. Perhaps he is well known. His writings have been translated by Shipa Mukherjee. He writes, one section of the refugees was educated, well-to-do and from upper caste, and the other section was impoverished, illiterate and poor and from the lower caste. Those who were from the so-called gentleman class, due to their age-long mindset of caste hatred, and refused to coexist along with the refugees from the lower caste communities like Namo means Namasudra, Pod means Pondra, Jele and Kamar. And the second observation is by Jyotin Bala. He's also another veteran Namasudra writer and activist. He writes, he cites the common, he refers to the common sentiment of the people living in the Balagar camp. Those who want to send us to Dandokaranya are our enemies. Follow the language of Jyotin Bala, right? He's writing, and he's in this way echoing the sentiment of the people who have been kept in different camps. Those who want to send us to Dandokaranya are our enemies. We shall make those people understand that despite their efforts to hold us down, our demand would be for smooth rehabilitation in Bengal only. So these are some of the important writings that actually help me conceptualize that especially scheduled caste refugees and especially the Namasudra refugees were being targeted. Now, another important source is the PhD thesis of Vijay Biswas. This is very important. I request many of you to read this. It's available on Sudganga. Heard History, Unheard Voice, the story of the Namasudra partition survivors. As the title of this thesis is concerned, Abhishek Biswas rightly conceptualizes the Namasudra victimhood. And it is from the research of Abhishek Biswas that I largely formed the concept Namasudra diaspora. And I would like to show you how this Namasudra diaspora later on, after being settled in Dandokaranya, later which a major part of it became Malkangiri, later on flourished their culture and sought to create a new cultural identity called Matua. Okay, so in this regard, I would like to read a little bit from the important writings of Joya Chatterjee. Perhaps you read Joya Chatterjee's The Spoils of Partition, Bengal and India, 1947-1967. So Joya Chatterjee writes, I will quote small, and that is, by far the largest, most ambitious and most controversial of these schemes, I mean the refugee rehabilitation schemes, was the Dandokaranya project. Under the aegis of the government agencies specially set up for this purpose, the Dandokaranya project was given a huge swath of territory of about 30,000 square miles, okay, spread over much of the Koraput and Kalahandi districts of Odisha and the Bastar district of Madhya Pradesh, now in Chhattisgarh. Dandokaranya lay in a low plateau where the soil was arid and infertile, and where previously there had been no settled population apart from some of the indigenous groups of people like Gonds and Koya people. The project aimed to resettle East Bengali peasants. Now, I just want to say that follow the language of Joya Chatterjee. The project aimed to resettle East Bengali peasants, in the main from the lowest castes. So these are some of the scholarly observations by the historians that actually helped me come to conceptualize the Namasudra diaspora in Malkangiri. Now, regarding the Malkangiri, earlier it was it is southernmost district in Odisha. It is known in the Hindu legend as Malyabhantagiri in Ramayana. Prior to 1936, the Malkangiri was a part of Koraput district of the Madras Presidency. In 1962, Malkangiri subdivision was carved, and from 1958 onwards, the refugees from East Pakistan were settled in the area of Dandokaranya project. This project continued for 30 years and was closed in 1988. On October the 2nd, 1992, Malkangiri district was carved out of Koraput district and became independent district. So if you consider the current, demographic structure of Malkangiri district, then you find the total area is 5,972 square kilometer, and the total population in 2011 is 6,13,193. And if you consider the religious population, the 97% Hindus and Christians 1.64, and come to language, ODS 34%, Koya 23%, and Bangla 21%. So it is 21% of the population in Malkangiri district speak Bangla. So it shows that that's a great chunk of Bangla speaking population. Now coming to the Bengali settlement over there, I would like to say that there are two categories of villages, right? There are total 215 villages in Malkangiri, and the approximate population in 2011 census 1.5 lakhs, right? There are two categories of village. One is MV category village, which is called Malkangiri village. Other is MPV category village, which is a Malkangiri Potiru village. See, the P in the middle stands for Potiru. There is a river, there is a place called Potiru, and there is a river. The name of the river is Potiru, and the place is named after the river. And the villages that are carved out after this, after the irrigation project out of the water of Potiru River have been designated as MPV. So with the MV village and MPV village, there are total 215 villages, Bengali villages. And in my research fieldwork, I have visited almost 23 villages. And what I have learned after communicating with the senior members of the community, and at the same time by getting engaged with many other sources, that out of the total Bengali population, there are the Namasudras are the majority. They constitute around 92 or 93% of the total Bengali population in Malkangiri. Then there is a Pondro community, and there is a small group of people belonging to Saha and Suri community. The Brahmin family, there are only 27 Brahmin families in the 215 Bengali villages. So this is more or less the demographic strength, right? Now I would like to talk a little bit about in the images you find these are some of the landscapes, right? And what I found over there, and also by reading some of the research articles, that after their settlement, the Bengali settlers, especially the Namasudras, started cultivating the lands. Given the fact that it was an arid land, infertile land, and I have interviewed many people who said that his father died in cultivating in this arid land. But despite all their efforts, they have been living over there for many times. So they successfully converted this land, and thanks to the water from the Potiru River, that the land, arid land, infertile land, became now cultivable land. And the thanks goes to the Namasudras, who are known for being a skilled agriculturalist. Okay. Now, in this regard, I would like to show a little bit from some of the little bit of the glimpses. You see, I specially visited the place called Potiru. Okay, Potiru is located in MV66, Malkangiri Village 6, and you see the Potiru River there. There's a bridge, and you see the Potiru River over there. Now, coming to the idea of the Matua culture, I would like to say that as I mentioned, that a big chunk of the Namasudra population follow Matua culture. And I would like to talk briefly about what Motuaism is. Motuaism in simple Bangla, it means Matwara, Mottota Matwara. That means becoming excited in the name of Harichan Thakur. So actually Motuaism as a religious movement began in the erstwhile East Bengal in the first and second half of the 19th century. So there is a village called Orakandi in the district earlier Faridpur, now in Gopalganj. In the district of Faridpur, in the district of Faridpur, in the village Orakandi, a man called Harichan Thakur, he was basically known as, his original name was Haridas Biswas. The Harichan Thakur and his son Guruchan Thakur, both of them together led an anti-caste movement. And this anti-caste movement was later on took into two distinct routes. One is the religious reform, other is the educational reform. If I come to the religious reform of the Motuas, or especially Namasudras, Shekhar Bandyopadhyay did extensive research on the Namasudras, the Namasudras of Bengal. And the Namasudra movement, historic Namasudra movement, had two wings. One is the religious reform, another is the educational reform. And if I consider the religious reform, then in the religious reform, we have this Matua identity, that Harichandra Thakur realized that the marginalized peoples, the untouchables, did not have any right to have a religion. So it is in absence of this right, he actually sought to create a new religious identity by eliminating the Brahminical hegemony, by not acknowledging the Vedas, and in this way by not acknowledging the Brahmin priesthood. So Motuaism, I just briefly talk about this. I don't want to I don't want to talk in details about Motuaism now. But the Matua culture, which is I would like to say the ideological religious offshoot of the Namasudra ideology. The Matua culture got flourished in the district of Faridpur before 1947. After 1947, when millions of Namasudras actually migrated to West Bengal and many other Indian states, they carried along with them their religious belief. So when the Namasudras were sent to the Dandakarana, the Mana transit camp, and from the Mana transit camp, they have been rehabilitated into different pockets. This group of people did not forget their culture, so they carried their culture along with them. And when they got settled in the place now we call Malkangiri, they started developing their own cultural I would like to say cultural performances, and in this way they started regaining their cultural identity. Now in my presentation, I would like to show you how this cultural identity, the Matua cultural identity, is being formed over the years, and what are the major factors that actually led to the formation of this Matua culture among those chunk of Namasudras who follow Motuaism, rather who follow the teachings of Harichandra Thakur and Guruchandra Thakur. Okay, in this regard, I would like to talk about one man. His name was Rajendra Pari. He was a Brahmin from Odisha, and he was actually working in the Malkangiri district. In 1986, he chanced upon a kind of a ritual that he saw that a group of people are beating dankas, big circular drums, and they are shouting and jumping by saying Horibol, Horibol, Horibol. And this kind of a musical performance and at the same time the chanting and dancing entertained him. And he came to them and asked them what are they doing. And those group of people who were actually performing this ritual, they say that they are celebrating a religious ritual, and they followed Motuaism. And in this way, they actually introduced Rajendra Pari, how they came here, how they actually spent the tragic life, and now how they are actually trying to regain their culture. So since that meeting, Rajendra Pari took the initiative. He somehow got interested in learning more about this culture. Then he was introduced with the Matua culture. He was introduced with the teachings of Harichandra Thakur. He was introduced with the teachings of Guruchandra Thakur. And in this way, how the anti-caste movement of Namasudras actually led to the Matua religious culture and identity. So in this way, it began in the Poteru. And in the Poteru now we have Poteru Horichad Guruchad Sevashram Sangho. The Horichad Sevashram Sangho at Poteru is the apex cultural organization in the entire Malkangiri's Bengali, Namasudra, Matua population. Now, I would like to say that the organizational role of the Poteru Horichad Sevashram Sangho in promoting the Matua culture. I have interviewed many people, especially senior members of the community, and they told me that in the initial years of 1970s, 1980s, how they actually went through limitless suffering. But gradually, they, especially when the Morichapi massacre took place, millions of people actually came back from West Bengal, and they kind of understood that now West Bengal is no longer their homeland. The Bengali mother did not want them to be a part of West Bengal, so they actually got contented with whatever there in the arid land of Dandakaranya. And later on, when it became Malkangiri, they became a kind of they got a kind of an idea that this is their only land, and whatever they have to live here, they have to work here, and this is the land for the future generation as well. And I have interviewed many senior people actually who have been evicted away from Morichapi. I mean, they faced the Morichapi massacre and they somehow fled. And they told that they realized that West Bengal is no longer their land. They got disillusioned, and now they started loving Malkangiri, which was an arid land. So out of this disillusionment, disillusionment in the Morichapi massacre in 1978-79, that the Namasudras in Malkangiri, when they came back to Malkangiri, they started realizing that this is the Malkangiri, this is the Dandokaranya, where they have to live. There's no way out. And it is this belief that actually brought a change to them. They started gradually getting organized under different religious groups. I would like to say that Namasudras in general follow different religious orientations. Many Namasudras follow Onukul Chandra Thakur's Satsanga. Many Namasudras follow Ramakrishna Mission Order. But majority of the Namasudras follow the Matuas. And in this regard, I would like to talk a little bit about the cultural performances and programs that the Poterush Horichad Guruchad Sebashram Sangho actually promoting round the year in order to ensure the cultural idea that this group of people actually borrowed from formerly East Bengal. Now, this is these are some of the glimpses of the Matua culture in Malkangiri. This is the idol of Horichand Thakur and his wife Shanti Devi at Malkangiri Horichad Potiru Horichad Ashram, and this is the statue you find in the temple. So actually, I visited on 25th March, and on 25th March, they actually celebrated the birthday of Guruchand Thakur, the son of Harichand Thakur, and this is perhaps the biggest religious conglomeration, you can say, of the Matuas outside West Bengal, right? So these are some of the glimpses, and here I would like to share with you some of the cultural performance, and then I talk a little bit about it. So this is one of the cultural performances. The people call it Dol. Dol is a team. In Motuaism, there is a particular concept that each village will have a one Dol, and one Dol or team will have a one Dolopati or the leader, and the leader will lead the Dol, and the villagers will follow the leader, right? And in this way, they will march towards the nearest Harichand temple, or the temple of Harichand Thakur. So I just would like to request you to kindly see. This is exactly the Dol. There are hundreds and hundreds of dolls attending on the night of 25th March in order to celebrate the birthday of Guruchand Thakur.